It was a typical summer afternoon in the small neighborhood, and the heat was almost unbearable. The sun beat down relentlessly, casting long shadows and making the air feel thick. A few people walked slowly down the street, their steps heavy from the weight of the summer heat. But there was one boy who wasn't walking aimlessly. He was working. He was a teen, not yet old enough to drive, but old enough to know the value of hard work. His family lived in a small, modest house at the end of the street. His parents worked long hours, but they never seemed to have enough money to make things comfortable. The boy's younger siblings would often ask for things they couldn't afford, and it broke his heart every time he had to say no. It wasn't that he didn't want to give them everything they wished for, but there was only so much to go around. Determined to help, the teen decided to do whatever it took to make a little extra money. He'd seen people at the busy intersection near his house cleaning car windshields for a few coins, and one day he decided to give it a try. Maybe, just maybe, he could earn enough to buy groceries or even a small gift for his mom. The boy made his way to the intersection, his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. He had never really worked for money before, other than small chores at home. This was different. It felt like a real job, one that could make a difference. He watched for a while as other people cleaned windshields, some of them successful and others barely making enough to buy a drink. He could only hope he'd be one of the lucky ones. After a few minutes, a car pulled up to the stoplight and the boy wasted no time. He stepped up to the car, wiped his hands on his worn-out shirt, and approached the driver. The window rolled down and he could see the driver's face. A middle-aged man with a tired look, but a smile that suggested kindness. The boy started cleaning the windshield carefully, wiping away the dust and grime from the road. He tried to make the glass shine, knowing that it was his only chance to impress the driver. As he worked, he couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. What if the man didn't tip him? What if he thought the job wasn't good enough? The boy finished with the windshield and took a step back, waiting. He had cleaned it the best he could, but in the back of his mind he wondered if it would be enough. The man reached into his pocket and handed the boy a small coin, a single quarter. The boy's heart sank a little. He had hoped for more, something that would make the effort feel worth it. But he smiled and thanked the man, trying to keep his disappointment from showing. He watched as the car drove away, the sound of the engine fading into the distance. It wasn't a lot of money, but at least it was something. He stood there for a while, watching the cars pass by. Some drivers barely glanced at him, while others gave him a quick nod. No one else stopped, and he knew it would be a long wait before another opportunity came his way. As the day wore on, the boy's optimism began to fade. He had cleaned a few more windshields, earning a little here and there, but nothing substantial. By the time the sun started to set, he had only earned a few dollars. It wasn't enough to make a real difference, but it was something. He gathered his things and walked back home, the weight of the long day settling on his shoulders. When he got home, his mom was busy in the kitchen preparing dinner. The smell of something simmering on the stove filled the house, and for a moment, the boy felt a sense of peace. He didn't want to worry his mom about the small amount of money he'd earned, but at the same time, he wanted to help in any way he could. "Hey, Mom," he said, trying to sound casual as he entered the kitchen. She looked up, a smile spreading across her face when she saw him. "How was your day?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "Okay," he replied, dropping his bag onto the chair. "I worked cleaning windshields." "Really? How did it go?" she asked, her eyes lighting up with interest. "It was fine," he said, trying to sound more positive than he felt. "I made a little bit of money." "That's good," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You're working hard." "I'm proud of you." The boy smiled, though inside he felt conflicted. He wanted to do more for his family. He didn't want his mom to worry about money anymore. He wanted to be able to buy her the things she deserved, things she had always dreamed of. But for now, he knew it was a small step in the right direction. That night, after dinner, the boy sat on his bed, looking out the window at the street. The quiet night contrasted sharply with the busy intersection he'd worked at all day. He thought about how far he still had to go. There were times when he felt so small in the world, just one boy with little more than determination to offer. The next day, the boy returned to the intersection. This time he had learned a little more. He made sure his movements were quicker, more confident. He worked harder than the day before, hoping that someone would notice. Hours passed and cars came and went, but there was no sign of the man who had tipped him so generously the day before. Just as he began to lose hope, a car pulled up. It was a sleek black sports car, and the boy could barely believe his eyes when he saw it. The car was unlike any he had seen before, its shiny exterior gleaming in the sunlight. It was so polished that it almost looked unreal. He stepped forward, his heart racing with anticipation. He hadn't expected to see a car like this today. It seemed like the kind of car that belonged to someone important. The window rolled down, revealing the driver, an older man dressed in a suit and tie. He looked at the boy, who was standing there with his bucket and cloth ready to clean the windshield. The boy hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to approach this man. But then he remembered how important this moment could be. He had to take the chance. "Can I clean your windshield, sir?" he asked, his voice a little shaky but filled with determination. The man looked at him for a moment, his eyes thoughtful. Then he nodded. "Go ahead." The boy smiled and got to work, cleaning the windshield with care, making sure it was spotless. The car seemed so much more expensive than any other car he had cleaned. The thought crossed his mind that he might not even get a tip this time. But he didn't let it stop him. He finished his work and stepped back, waiting nervously. The man didn't immediately hand him any money, and for a moment the boy thought maybe he wouldn't get anything. But then, the man reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill. The boy's eyes widened as the man handed him the money. "Thank you for your hard work," the man said, offering him a warm smile. The boy couldn't believe it. $20? It was more money than he had made all day. More money than he had ever earned in one go. He looked down at the bill in his hand, overwhelmed by the generosity. "Thank you, sir," the boy said, his voice filled with gratitude. He wasn't sure if the man had meant to give him that much, but he was grateful for it nonetheless. The man nodded and drove off, leaving the boy standing there in disbelief. He couldn't wait to tell his mom. This was the most money he had ever made in a single day, and it was enough to help his family. The boy had a feeling that this day might be the start of something bigger, something that could change everything. The boy's heart was still racing as he walked home that afternoon, the $20 bill clutched tightly in his hand. He felt a mixture of disbelief and joy, the kind of excitement that comes when something unexpected happens, something good. The money he had earned was more than enough to help his family that week, and for once he felt like he had really made a difference. As he reached the front door of his house, he took a deep breath before opening it. His mom was inside, busy with dinner preparations, the sounds of chopping vegetables and the soft hum of the stove filling the kitchen. She looked up when he entered, her face lighting up with a smile. "How was your day?" she asked, her voice warm and full of curiosity. The boy's face broke into a grin as he walked into the kitchen and put the money down on the table. "I made $20 today, Mom," he said, his voice almost in disbelief. His mom looked at him, her eyes narrowing with surprise. $20? How did that happen? She asked, clearly impressed. "I cleaned windshields again, and this man gave me $20. More than I've ever made in one day," he explained. Still in shock at the generosity of the stranger, she shook her head, still not quite believing it. "That's amazing. I'm so proud of you." The boy beamed at her praise, but there was a part of him that felt like something even bigger was waiting for him. This wasn't just a small windfall. It felt like a turning point. The money was a start, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this opportunity might lead to something more. Over the next few days, the boy returned to the intersection to clean windshields. He didn't expect to make as much money as he had that one day, but he kept his hopes high. Each morning he went out with a sense of purpose, a feeling that he was doing something important, even if it was just cleaning windshields. On the third day, something strange happened. As he stood waiting at the intersection, wiping the sweat from his brow, he noticed something that made him pause. A sleek black sports car rolled up to the light, stopping right in front of him. The car looked even more impressive than the one from the other day. It was polished to perfection, the type of car someone might only dream of driving. The boy's heart skipped a beat. He stepped forward, his nerves taking hold for a moment. Was it really happening again? Would he have the same luck as the day before? He stepped closer to the car, hoping the driver would notice him. When the window rolled down, he couldn't believe his eyes. It was the same man, the one who had tipped him generously before. He was wearing the same suit, his face just as kind and welcoming as it had been the first time. The boy stood there almost frozen, unsure of what to say. "I see you're back at it again," the man said, his voice warm and friendly. "How's business today?" The boy smiled nervously. "It's going okay, sir. Just trying to make some extra money." "Well, I've got a feeling you're doing a lot more than that," the man replied, his eyes twinkling with a knowing look. The boy stood there, not knowing how to respond. It wasn't every day someone spoke to him like that. The man seemed to understand more than just his current situation. It was as if he saw something in the boy. A drive, a determination, a potential that others hadn't noticed. "You know," the man continued, "I see a lot of people out here doing the same thing. But there's something about you, something different. You've got a good work ethic, and that counts for a lot in life." The boy felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of pride he hadn't felt before. He wasn't used to being praised for his efforts, especially not by strangers. He had always just worked hard because he had to. But hearing those words made him feel seen. Like all the effort he had put into cleaning windshields and helping his family was finally being recognized. The man smiled and reached into his pocket, pulling out a stack of bills. He handed the boy a crisp $50 note, much more than he had ever earned in one go. The boy's eyes widened in surprise. "Keep it up, kid. I can tell you've got a lot of potential." "Don't stop," the man said, rolling the window up before driving off. The boy stood there, holding the $50 bill, his mind racing. This was more money than he had ever made in a single day. It wasn't just the money that made his heart pound, though. It was the feeling that something bigger was unfolding before him. He couldn't wait to get home and share the news. As he walked back down the street, the boy thought about what the man had said. Was it really true? Did he have potential? He wasn't sure what that even meant, but it felt good to hear someone say it. He had always believed in working hard and doing what needed to be done, but hearing it from someone else made it feel like he was on the right path. When he got home, his mom was already at the table, setting out plates for dinner. She looked up as he entered, noticing the strange look on his face. The boy quickly pulled out the $50 bill and placed it on the table in front of her. "Look, Mom, I made $50 today," he said, his voice filled with excitement. His mom's eyes grew wide as she looked at the bill. $50? Where did that come from?" "I cleaned windshields again, and this man gave me $50. He said I've got potential, and he wanted to help me out," the boy explained, his voice still full of amazement. The boy's mom didn't say anything for a moment. She just stared at the money, her eyes filled with pride. Then she smiled softly, her voice full of emotion. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You're doing something good, and it's starting to pay off." The boy sat down at the table, his heart swelling with pride. He had always wanted to do something to make his family proud, and now, for the first time, it felt like he was really starting to make a difference. That night after dinner, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was racing with thoughts of what the future could hold. He had no idea where this unexpected journey was going, but for the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, he was on the brink of something big. The days that followed felt different for the boy. There was a sense of excitement in the air that he couldn't quite shake. After that second encounter with the kind man in the sports car, things started to change. It wasn't just about cleaning windshields anymore. It felt like he was standing on the edge of something bigger, something he didn't fully understand yet, but he could feel it coming every morning. He would head out to the intersection with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun would be high in the sky, the streets filled with the sounds of honking horns and the hum of busy traffic. But for the boy, each car that passed was a new opportunity. It wasn't just about making money anymore. It was about proving that he could do something worthwhile. And then something strange happened. It started small at first. One day, while he was cleaning a car's windshield, another car pulled up right behind it. The driver didn't ask for a cleaning, but as he watched the boy work, he handed him a generous tip. The boy was surprised but grateful. He wasn't used to being noticed by strangers in this way. A few days later, it happened again. A car would pull up and the driver would give him a tip, without him even asking to clean the windshield. The boy couldn't help but feel a little confused. What was going on? Why were these people giving him money without him asking? But he didn't question it. He just kept working, trying his best to make each windshield spotless, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone would notice him again. Then, one afternoon, A black SUV stopped in front of him. It was a much larger car than the others, and the driver, a man dressed in a sharp suit, rolled down the window and looked directly at him. The boy took a deep breath, preparing to approach the car. "Can I clean your windshield, sir?" he asked, his voice steady but full of nervous anticipation. The man smiled and nodded. "Go ahead, young man." The boy got to work wiping the windshield clean. But as he worked, he noticed something odd. There was something different about this man. He wasn't like the others who had simply handed him tips and driven off. This man seemed to be watching him, observing his every move. The boy's heart beat faster as he finished cleaning the windshield and stepped back, waiting for the tip. Instead of handing him money, the man leaned out of the car window and spoke to him. "You're doing something very important. You know," the man said, his voice calm and measured, "I can see that you've got a good work ethic, and that counts for a lot. People who work hard like you, well, they don't go unnoticed for long." The boy looked at him, unsure of what to say. He had always worked hard, but hearing this stranger say it out loud made him feel like he was doing something right. The man continued. "Listen, I've been watching you for a while now," the man said, his eyes softening. "And I think you're capable of more than just cleaning windshields. There's potential in you. You might not see it now, but trust me, you've got something special." The boy stood there, stunned. He had heard compliments before, but this one felt different. It was as if the man could see straight through him, recognizing something he had never seen in himself. Before he could respond, the man handed him a business card. "This is my number," the man said. "Call me if you ever want to talk about what comes next. You've got a future, kid." The boy took the card, still trying to process what had just happened. The man rolled up the window and drove off, leaving the boy standing there, holding the card in his hand. He couldn't believe it. A business card? What did that even mean? The thought of calling the man seemed strange, but something inside him told him to hold on to the card, just in case. Over the next few days, the boy couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. Who was this man? Why did he care so much about him? And what did he mean by potential? It wasn't like he had any grand plans for his future. He was just trying to help his family and make some money. He didn't see himself as someone with a bright future, just a regular kid working hard to get by. But the more he thought about it, the more he began to wonder. That week, he got a phone call that would change everything. It was the man from the SUV. "Hey, kid, it's me," the man's voice said when the boy answered the phone. "I hope I didn't catch you off guard." The boy was speechless for a moment. No, sir, I wasn't expecting to hear from you." The man chuckled. "I figured as much. But listen, I've been thinking about you. I know this might sound a little strange, but I want to help you. You've got something in you, and I think you could go far if you had the right guidance. How would you feel about meeting up for coffee sometime? Just to talk." The boy's mind was racing. What was this all about? Coffee? Guidance? He wasn't sure what to say. I don't know, sir. I mean, I don't really have time for coffee. I'm just trying to keep working and help my family," he said, feeling a bit awkward. "I get it," the man replied. "But sometimes working hard isn't enough. Sometimes you need a little direction. You can keep doing what you're doing, but if you want to go further, you have to be open to new opportunities. Think about it." The boy thought about it for a moment. What did he have to lose? He wasn't going to say no to something that could change his life. He agreed to meet the man the next day at a local coffee shop. The next afternoon, the boy walked into the coffee shop, his heart pounding. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he had a feeling this meeting was going to be important. When he spotted the man sitting at a table by the window, he walked over and sat down across from him. "Glad you could make it," the man said, smiling warmly. "I know this is a bit unusual, but I want you to know that I'm here to help. You've got something a lot of people don't have, drive. And that's the most important thing." The boy didn't know how to respond. He was still trying to wrap his head around the idea that this stranger believed in him so much. "I don't know if I'm really all that special," the boy said quietly. The man shook his head. "That's the thing. You don't see it in yourself yet, but I do. You're going to need more than just hard work to get where you want to go. You need to start thinking about the bigger picture. What do you really want out of life?" The boy paused, staring down at the table. "I just want to help my family. I want to make sure we're okay. I don't really know what else there is." The man nodded. "That's a good start. But there's more out there for you. And if you want it, you have to be willing to take a step forward." As they talked more, the boy began to realize that the man wasn't just talking about cleaning windshields or small jobs. He was talking about a bigger vision, a future that he had never considered before. The idea of having a real chance at something greater began to take root in his mind. He didn't know what it would take to get there, but he was starting to believe that he might just have the potential to make it happen. By the time they finished their conversation, the boy felt a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. The man had given him something more than just advice. He had given him a glimpse of a different future, one where hard work could lead to something more than just scraping by. The boy couldn't stop thinking about the meeting with the man. It was only a few days ago, but it already felt like a turning point in his life. What the man had said about potential, about seeing something in him that he didn't see in himself, had stuck with him. It made him question everything he thought he knew about his future. For years, he had seen himself as just another kid working to get by, cleaning windshields, doing odd jobs, and helping his family however he could. But now, someone was telling him that there was more to his life, that he had the ability to do something bigger. And even though the boy wasn't entirely sure what that something bigger was, he felt a new sense of hope starting to grow inside him. He didn't immediately call the man after their coffee meeting. Part of him was still unsure, still a little hesitant to believe that someone could genuinely care about his future. But that uncertainty started to fade as the days went on. Slowly, he began to see that maybe he was more than just a kid cleaning windshields. Maybe he could be something else, someone who could actually make a difference, not just in his own life, but in the lives of others. One afternoon, as the boy stood on the same street corner, wiping the windshield of a car, he thought about the man's words. He had given him his business card, and he had asked the boy to call him if he ever needed advice or guidance. The boy hadn't felt ready then, but now he was starting to think it might be time. The wind picked up and a chill ran through him. He took a deep breath and pulled the card out of his pocket. It was still crisp and clean, with the man's name and phone number neatly written on it. His hand hovered over his phone for a moment before he dialed the number. The phone rang a few times before the man answered. "Hey kid, what's up?" His voice was as calm and friendly as it had been the day they met. The boy hesitated for a moment. I've been thinking about what you said, about potential and all that. I think I'm ready to talk more. Maybe about what comes next." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Then the man replied, his tone full of warmth. "I'm glad to hear that. I knew you'd come around. Let's meet again. How about tomorrow?" The boy agreed, and the next day they met at the same coffee shop. This time the boy felt different. He wasn't as nervous as he had been the first time. He had already started to believe in the idea that maybe he could do more with his life. When he sat down across from the man, he felt like he was ready to listen, ready to take whatever advice he could get. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," the boy started, "about having potential. I don't know what that means for me yet, but I want to try. I want to do something more." The man smiled, clearly pleased. "That's the right attitude. You're already on the right path. The next step is figuring out what exactly you want to do with that potential." The boy leaned in, his eyes focused on the man. "I don't know. I want to help my family. I want to make sure we're okay. But I don't know how to take that to the next level. I don't know what's out there for me." The man nodded thoughtfully. "Helping your family is a great goal. But remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you want to help them, you have to first help yourself. That means thinking about what you're passionate about, what excites you. It's not always about the next paycheck, it's about building something that lasts." The boy frowned slightly. "But I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't have any special skills or anything." The man chuckled softly. "That's where you're wrong. Everyone has something unique inside them. It's just a matter of finding it. Sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone to discover what you really care about. You've already shown that you're willing to work hard. That's a great start. The next step is figuring out where to direct that energy." The boy sat back in his chair, letting the words sink in. He had always believed that working hard was enough, that as long as he kept pushing himself, things would eventually work out. But now he was starting to see that maybe it wasn't just about working harder. Maybe it was about working smarter, about choosing the right direction. "I've been doing some thinking," the boy said after a pause. "I've always liked cars. I like how they work, how they're built. But I don't know if that's something I could turn into a career." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Cars, huh? That's interesting. Have you ever considered learning more about mechanics? It's a skill that could definitely take you places, and it's something you can build on. The boy's eyes widened. Mechanics? I never thought about that, the man smiled. Why not? You've got the work ethic. If you're interested, there are places you can learn, get your hands dirty, and eventually make a good living. It's all about finding the right path and committing to it. The boy sat there, his mind racing. Could he really do something like that? He had always loved cars, but he never thought he could turn it into a career. The more he thought about it, though, the more the idea seemed to make sense. Maybe this was the thing he had been searching for all along. Maybe this was the something more that the man had been talking about. What do I need to do to get started? The boy asked, his voice filled with a sense of determination. The man leaned in, his expression serious. The first thing you need to do is find a way to learn. There are schools, apprenticeships, and even online resources where you can start getting the skills you need. It's not going to be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But if you're serious, you'll find a way. You've already shown that you can work hard. Now it's time to work smart. The boy nodded, his excitement growing. This was it. This was the direction he needed. He wasn't sure how it would all work out, but he knew he was ready to take the first step. Over the next few weeks, the boy threw himself into learning about mechanics. He spent hours researching schools and programs, looking for the best way to gain the skills he needed. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, he felt like he was on the right track. This wasn't just about making money, it was about building a future where he could do something he loved and help his family at the same time. As the boy worked hard to learn about mechanics, he realized something important. His potential wasn't just about what others saw in him. It was about what he saw in himself. And now for the first time, he truly believed that he could do something great. Weeks turned into months, and the boy's life began to change in ways he hadn't anticipated. He kept working hard, always showing up to clean windshields at the intersection. But now he had a new goal in mind. He wasn't just working for spare change anymore. He was working toward something bigger. The man's words about mechanics, about finding his true passion, stuck with him every day. The boy started looking into mechanic schools. He learned about the different programs available, some that offered hands-on training, others that were more classroom-based. He knew he had to start small, but he was determined. He wasn't going to let his circumstances hold him back. For the first time, he had a clear direction, a vision for his future. But life wasn't always easy. His family still struggled to make ends meet. And there were days when the boy questioned whether he was doing the right thing. There were times when he felt tired, when the weight of his responsibilities seemed too much to bear. But every time doubt crept in, he thought about the man who had first believed in him, the man who saw potential in him even when he couldn't see it in himself. That belief kept him going. One day, as he was cleaning a car's windshield, he noticed something different. A luxury car had stopped, and as he approached, he realized it was the same man from all those months ago. The man who had given him advice, who had encouraged him to follow his dreams. The boy's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately put down his rag, walking toward the car. The man rolled down the window, his face breaking into a smile when he saw the boy. "You're still at it, huh?" the man said, his voice full of warmth. "I see you're doing well." The boy smiled back, feeling a sense of pride he hadn't felt before. "Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've been learning about mechanics. I think I found my thing." The man's eyebrows shot up in surprise and approval. "That's great. I knew you had it in you. I can see the change in you, kid. You've got a fire in you now." The boy felt a surge of excitement at the praise. It was as if the man had recognized something in him that he had worked so hard to find. For the first time, he felt like he was on the right track, not just because of what he was doing, but because he truly believed in it. "I've been looking at schools," the boy continued, his voice more confident now. "I'm thinking of starting a program to learn more about mechanics." The man nodded, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "That's a big step. It's not going to be easy, but if you stick with it, you'll get there." The boy's eyes widened with excitement. "I want to make something of myself. I want to help my family. I know this is what I'm supposed to do." The man smiled and handed him a small envelope. "I want to help you out. This is a little something to get you started. Use it for school, for your future. You've earned it." The boy's hand shook as he took the envelope. Inside was a check for a large sum of money, more than he had ever seen in his life. His eyes filled with tears as he looked up at the man, speechless. "You don't have to do this," the boy said, his voice shaky with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you." The man shook his head, his expression kind. "You don't need to thank me. You're going to do great things. This is just a little push to help you get started. You've got the drive, and that's all you need." The boy stood there for a long moment, staring at the check, his heart full of gratitude. He couldn't believe this was happening. Just a few months ago, he had been cleaning windshields for spare change, unsure of his future. Now he had a clear path ahead of him, a path that led to something he was truly passionate about. He had the man to thank for that, but most of all, he had himself to thank for not giving up. As he walked home that day, the check safely tucked in his pocket, the boy felt a sense of hope he had never known before. He knew there would still be challenges ahead. Nothing was going to be handed to him, and he would have to work harder than ever to make his dream a reality. But for the first time, he felt like he had the tools to succeed. He had a purpose, a goal, and the belief that he could achieve it. He spent the next few days filling out applications for mechanics programs, using the money from the man to help pay for his tuition. He had never been more determined in his life. He wasn't going to waste this opportunity. He knew that this was his chance to turn his life around, to create a future he had only dreamed of. But it wasn't just about the money or the school. It was about the lesson he had learned along the way, the lesson that hard work, determination, and a little help from others could change everything. The boy had always worked hard, but now he was working with a purpose. He was no longer just trying to get by. He was working towards something bigger. Months later, the boy found himself in the first day of his mechanics program. As he sat in the classroom, surrounded by other students who shared his passion, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had made it. It wasn't easy, but he had done it. And as the instructor began talking about engines and the art of mechanics, the boy's heart swelled with excitement. This was it. This was where he was meant to be. The days were long and filled with challenges, but he loved every minute of it. He spent hours learning about car engines, how they worked, and how to fix them. He was constantly amazed by how much there was to learn, and he threw himself into the work with the same determination he had used when cleaning windshields. Each day brought new challenges, but he never gave up. He knew that the path he was on was the right one. As he moved through the program, he became more confident in his skills. He started taking on small projects, fixing cars for friends, helping people in his community with their vehicle problems. The more he worked, the more he realized how much he loved it. He wasn't just fixing cars, he was solving problems, making things work, and helping people. He had found his calling. Years later, the boy, now a young man, had his own garage. He had worked hard to get there, and it hadn't been easy, but he was proud of what he had built. His business was thriving, and he had a steady stream of customers. He had come a long way from that street corner, cleaning windshields for spare change. And as he looked around his shop, surrounded by the tools of his trade, he couldn't help but smile. He had done it. He had taken a small opportunity, worked hard, and turned it into something amazing. He had built a future for himself and his family, and it was all because he had never given up. The man who had first believed in him had been right. He had potential. And now, the boy was living proof that with hard work, belief in yourself, and a little help along the way, anything was possible.